Hi everyone, Di Parker, the Good Grief Coach here, and today I want to share with you something really amazing that's just happened to me in this last month, and something that it came out of nowhere, and I'm just so grateful for it. We can often have experiences of change in our lives, and that is going to be the topic going forward for me to share with you over this next year. Um, but sometimes change is presented to you as an opportunity that you can step into something different and just come from nowhere. And this is what's just happened to me. And I decided to step into it. So what was it? I'm going to share with you my trip to Bali because I think there's an awful lot of things in that if you just listen to this quick little video of it, you'll be able to discover a lot maybe for yourself and maybe even decide to take that trip yourself to Bali. But in doing this, I first want to thank Lizzie Adamson Brown for putting this extremely impressive, amazing, life-changing trip together for me and this group of girls. Now, I had no say in this trip because I came on to a space that was given up by somebody else because they couldn't come. So I jumped on that. And so that the girls themselves that were part of this group had devised what they wanted to do. And Lizzie had put all this together. And whereas I've just done package holidays, unless I've been going to see a friend in Australia, for example, but generally it's, you do the package, you go to the hotel, you trips out that they want to show you, but that's it. You don't get to immerse yourself in their life, in their heart. And this is what happened. And we had a fantastic guide in a guy called Hulu from Discover, who took us around, told us everything, and helped set this up. So that's why I want to share it with you because it's just so excited. So the first thing we did was flew into Bali and then was transferred to Ubud, a nice hotel called Kajane. Beautiful bedrooms. I mean, I was a bit concerned about what that might be like, but all of the bedrooms that we were in were absolutely fabulous and really done to a high spec. And they were all very supportive and caring for your needs in all the hotels that we went to. We had a wonderful breakfast was presented to us, and of course you had what we would want, sort of like your toast and your eggs and things like that. They also had what they would eat, which was noodles, rice, and everything, because rice is their stable diet out there. So it was quite interesting to see all the variations of what you could have for breakfast. It was absolutely amazing. Anyway, on the first day, we did a lot. Looking back on these photographs now, which I'm going to share with you, it's just terrific. Um, we were picked up by Hulo and we were taken off to a place to do tea and coffee tasting. And of course, an awful lot of people will know the story of um, coffee grinds that come out of a monkey's butt. I wasn't drinking any of that. Anyway, turns out they're not monkeys at all. They're part of the cat family. Um, and so I still didn't, still do it. I said, no, no, not doing that. But the other coffee, barley coffee itself that's grown, is absolutely fabulous. And I came away with enough stuff to last me for my whole trip in Bali and a little bit I was able to bring back home and still enjoy. Um, but as soon as you walked out through the door too, the warmth of the place hit you, just temperature wise, and the people smiling, greeting, saying good morning, extremely friendly. And then from there, we went to a temple, and on the way, Hulo was telling us about how the structure is in Bali, how the family structure is. Everything's in like it would look like a compound from the outside, but you could see the rooftops were always finished off with something that looked like a temple. And indeed, each house did have its own temple, and sometimes they had the temples outside of it as well. Everywhere there was like little gifts and offerings of flowers, usually an incense stick and some food which the local dogs that were roaming would would help themselves to. And these were put all over the place, so you'd have to watch actually where you were putting your feet in case you stood on any of them. And then we went off to do a cleansing in a temple, and this turned out to be the first of two that I did. And so how they show you how to cleanse the words that come out your mouth, your body, and your heart. And in that, you sit then in prayer. And in prayer, you ask for anything negative to be released from you and welcome in anything that you want, like peace. So in my case, I wanted to let out any hurt that was left over from my grieving of my family to the peace that I would like to feel deeply within me. And then you were we were asked to do our own little put together our own little offering, which we did, and he guided us through what we needed to do. And then we went down into the waterfall, and it was an amazing experience. And people were screaming because sometimes that energy's there and people want to just let it out. He didn't actually ask us or instruct us to do the screaming at this point. That actually was in the other one that I'll share with you later. And so from that, feeling quite refreshed and fabulous after having that experience. I mean, I've done anything like that before in my life. We went off and had lunch, and as soon as we got into the van, the heavens opened. I mean, like really poured down. And because it was rainy season, even though we were kind of coming towards, I think, the end of it, they have two seasons, summer and they have rainy. But it's over and very quickly, but it was quite nice to watch it, and the place felt fresh. You could smell the earth in the place. From there, we went down to look at some rice fields. Now, they've been very creative with the rice fields because the ones that I've usually seen have been flat fields of this water that just sits there. Whereas, in actual fact, they've created tiers and the water will run down each one and into its own little terrace of rice growing and created this wonderful valley for people to go and look at. And then if you are a bit of a daredevil, there was actually a zip wire that you could take across that, or there was great big swings that you could sit on and experience going out across the valley. Nice to watch though. So that was day one. We packed so much into day one, and then returned back to the hotel for day two. Day two, we went to the craft place of Bali, and we were shown how they make their silver jewelry. And then the operation that they had there, of all these people sitting and each one doing their little bit to create these wonderful pieces of jewelry, very artistic. There was one guy there that was actually making little round balls that you can possibly hang on your tree or on your cat or your dog. But they were called happiness balls. So I was saying to this guy, are you happy? It's important. Your energy's going into that ball. Are you happy? So we were starting to laugh and have a bit of a joke with me on that. Um, and after we did that, we went to see how they made their fabrics, the colours that they put into their fabrics and all the different things, and but the skill of actually how that's done. And they use a little wax pen and they draw on the wax pen and then they add a colour and then they'll do some more and add a colour and then it just builds up and builds up and builds up. We were fortunate that one of the ladies with us actually had done that in an art class when she was in college, so she was able to explain a little bit more. But then the ladies actually grabbed our t-shirts, and there's me and this other girl's got our t-shirts with the Bali logo on it and little flower because they have this particular flower which is their barley flower. And then after we did that, we went for a walk around a tropical rainforest. And I was like, it's been raining, it's slippy, we're in like flip-flops, but my goodness, what an experience. The views were fabulous, but also seeing the culture of actually the way they were putting the rice into the rice fields. As I've mentioned before, let's make sure we're eating barley rice now because they have these trays and then they painstakingly put them all out into their rows. And then they have marigolds growing around them and ducks going up and down. And they are so that the people don't use fertilizers or anything that's not organic in the production of this of their rice. And so they had a cow stood on a concrete slab, all sheltered in and fed. Everything was hunky dory. The cow was in extremely good condition because the poo at the cow was their fertilizer. So everything was done and with nature. And it was really, really impressive to see how they were putting all of this together. And then we had a little snack before we jumped in the minibus and went down to our next hotel. The next hotel was up in the north of the island called Lavinia. There wasn't much else there, but on the journey to it, you got to see all the different types of lifestyle that the Balinese people have, from those that have plenty to those that don't have too much. So it was an eye-opener in the journey, and you got to see an awful lot. So day three was a cookery class, and we went off to, I didn't know what to expect. I thought perhaps it was going to be in somebody's kitchen. But we were taken to this amazing place that has only just opened their doors in October. And they had all of these stations laid out, as you can see from the pictures. And this team of ladies helped us gather stuff from their gardens to help with the cookery, the cooking that we were doing. Um, and see and understand the process and follow it through. So of course there was a cookery book for sale, so I had to buy that, didn't I? To try and recreate these wonderful dishes that we made there, and it was quite a laugh because my friend Di doesn't actually cook much, so lots of photographs were taken of us doing that. At this actual resort, they have an infinity pool. So of course, costumes were soon on, and after lunch, and we went for a nice little swim in the pool. And the scenery, just looking out from that pool, was fabulous. And they had like high raised huts, I suppose you would call them, with because they were mainly of canvas on these stilts, all facing this view. And so I sort of asked, could we go and have a look through them? So they said yes, and they were waiting for their first visitors that weekend, and I'd stay there. It was absolutely fabulous. They had a screen for the mosquito part, and with the fabric down as a tent, and then you could if you wanted to sleep with it all open, so you could just look at that view. And they were still done that you couldn't see the next one to you. They planned all the vegetation to grow up and shield you, so it was just you in your little area looking out at this fabulous view. It was just amazing. I definitely would stay there just to have that experience as well. So after we um, had that experience that day, the next day was a rest day, and we got to just hang out around the hotel and went down onto their beach, which was actually black sand because it's a volcanic island. But we were watching the crabs busy running up and down the beach, which was interesting. And of course, an opportunity for us all to dive in and take advantage of their massages. The other thing I'd say to you too is if you were ever traveling to Bali, don't overpack your suitcase because it is so cheap to do your laundry. And obviously, it's lighter then on your bags, and you can end up bringing some more stuff back from Bali yourself. So after we left this hotel, we took a journey down to Seminyak. Now, that was too busy for me. This is just the edge of the tourist area, but for me, this was just too busy. After having that peace and tranquility of what we'd seen, um, I thought, oh, I'm not sure about this. So we went to go into our hotel room, and the lady offered us an upgrade. So there was four of us. So we took it up, and we ended up with our own little villa room and swimming pool. So that was really nice. Again, we took advantage of the massages because again, they're cheap. The food maintained level wise was absolutely excellent. No qualms about the food there. Um, and then we just had a little wander for this was a shopping area, so you could go around and buy lots of things. But it's still being mindful because some of the places there, they want you to barter, and they had it like what they call a flea market, and so you could have a look around there. So they're all wanting you to buy their stuff. So you have to like really hang on to your because you know what they're going through and what they've done to put this stuff together. Is so you have to be mindful of that and brace yourself for that part of the journey. So it was really nice to have that upgrade, and this was also then the end of that first part of the holiday with the main group of ladies. So we got to say goodbye to them, and the four of us travelled on to the Shanti Boutique retreat. Not easy for me to say, but there you go. That's where we went to next. For all the busyness that we'd experienced on this whole trip and the fast pace of what we were doing, this was our time to just relax, to chill out. And even though it's down as a yoga retreat, you don't necessarily have to do anything if you don't want to. You can just sit and be quiet with yourself, or you can take part in however many things you want. And there's not that many things that they actually put on. They were asking in advance what it is that you would like to do, and then they arranged it. So it's not like it's, a full schedule of you're doing this, then it's juicing or anything like that. It totally not. The first thing I think we did was yin yoga, which I've never done before, so it was all just about stretching and breathing and relaxing the body. Then we did some breath work. We did a breath work session. And it was all just nice to come away from that hustle and bustle of that last place and to have this space for ourselves to embody and embrace what we've been seeing, what we've been doing up to this point. And now this was our week to work on ourselves and let all of that land. And I really did enjoy this part. And the hostess was absolutely lovely. The staff were absolutely, oh, they were so lovely. Wanted to bring them home with me. And the food was excellent. Absolutely fabulous food. Um, so we did those two classes, and then the next day we met a healer. And that was a very interesting experience. We all had a one-to-one session with him. And then we went upstairs later into their yoga studio to do a meditation. And obviously, in the path of doing this, there was people arrived that we had yet to meet, and we got to know them and their stories, and we were all supporting and helping each other as things were coming up for everybody. And the day after the meditation with this guru, we went off to do another cleansing. And this one was very different, lovely and very different. Same kind of cleansing ritual that this guy was taking us through. And then we were to stand and look out at a lake and ask for all of the release that we might have still. So again, I still went with any hurt that's still lingering me, anything to do with my grief, to allow that to come up so that I can enjoy peace. And so we all stood out looking at this lake. And then the next thing is that I felt this surge of energy because once you feel that energy, you would take yourself underneath the waterfall and then just let it go, shout it out or scream it out. And of course, we're all very British and, are we going to do this? Um, but you embrace where you're at, and I could, there was actually nothing I could do about it because I could just feel this energy coming up. And so I maneuvered myself in front of this waterfall. Everybody else is still looking out at the lake. And I started thinking about one of my children. And then this energy kept coming. And I let out this scream of and my one of my friends said to me, I I turned in shock but could hear the pain. I'd started crying. So I was just letting this out. And then you had to do it 3 times. So, you think, can't be much more than that. But no, it just kept coming and it just kept coming. And then my friend that I went with just embraced me while I had a good cry again. And God, did I feel good after that? Definitely recommend it. If you're holding on to anything inside of yourself, take yourself out to the beach, scream at the sea, shout it out, or do it in a field or put some loud music on in your car and really let that out because it's only going to be wearing in our bodies if we hold this stuff in. And I didn't even know it was that deep and it was there, but it all came out. And my goodness, did I feel better after it. So I would highly recommend that. To say I slept well that night, it's an underestimate there. But it was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So from that, what did we have left after that? I don't think I had much left after that. They were offering massages as well there, but I felt I'd had enough of the massages in the other hotels that we've been at. And I spent that time then doing journaling and connecting with the peace that was in me and the way I want to move my life forward now. And what this guru had actually picked up on me. He said to me that I was an ant. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm an ant. He says, yes, you're busy going and doing and leading and all the rest of it. You need to be the honey. And I went, honey. He went, yeah, sweetness. Let people come to you. And so I'm looking at that now in the context of my life and saying, well, okay, what can I change so that I can not put so much pressure on myself to make things happen and but to actually take a breath and embrace life. And that's what I'm taking from Bali is to just do that. We all live in this technology world, this like I'm talking to you on technology, and we need to take that step back and we need to ground ourselves often, especially in our country in the UK and anywhere that you're working with technology, you need to spend more time in nature for your own health and ground yourself often. Um, the people of Bali are so peaceful. They are just full of wisdom. They're I mean, yes, they have mobile phones, but they have very little technology. There was no TVs that we were sitting around watching. We were having conversations around the table. We were sharing our stories and supporting each other with suggestions. Um, and that's just priceless. And that holiday, this trip I've just been on, this experience is definitely something I think a lot of us should go out and do. Maybe not necessarily to Bali, but find yourself a retreat that attracts you and go and discover some elements of yourself that possibly you didn't even know was there. All of this just would not have happened without the hard work of Lizzie And I just want to thank you, Lizzie, from the bottom of my heart for putting this holiday together, this experience together, so that I can go off and have had that because there's no way I think I would have ever thought to have even planned a holiday like this. And wow, it's just blown my mind. So thank you. Or as they say in Bali, suksama. Thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the quick photographs. And if you ever want a trip to Bali, I suggest you get in touch with Lizzie. Take care, guys. Bye.